Cool. Let's start. So, hello everybody. Welcome to another demo for SigNoz. So this time we will be talking about Alerts Builder, which is a feature which we have shipped recently in 0.10.0. So here's a quick agenda. So we'll go through what is Alerts Builder and why we built it. Then we will take you through steps on how you can configure alerts with SigNoz, how you can set up notification channels. Then we will give a brief introduction of how you can collect host and application metrics. And based on that, you can set alerts using alerting rules. And Amol will also take you through a demo of SigNoz with us. So Amol is the engineer who worked on this feature primarily. And then we'll open up for Q&A, right? So if you have any questions in between, please add in the Zoom chat, and then we'll pick it up at the end of the session. Cool. So so why did we build Alerts Builder, right? So before shipping this feature, we had a way to create alerts using PromQL expressions. So basically, people had to write PromQL queries and manually set alerts. What we had like requests from users was that lots of people were not familiar with PromQL, and hence they wanted an easier way to set up alerts, right? And that's essentially the driving force on this feature, and as in how we can make creating alerts much easier. So ideally through a UI drop and down, and then user should be able to like filter the exact metrics they want to do, and then set thresholds on that, and then set alerts, right? So that's the sort of direction we are going in. In the last demo, we showed a metrics query builder demo where we showed how you can plot graphs using metrics query builder, and basically we are using that component to plot graphs and then set thresholds on that, right? So the goal idea is to make it very simple and transparent. So currently we support metrics query builder, which is like the drag and drop way to create alerts, and also PromQL queries, because like there are some type of use cases which are like more advanced, which you can't do currently through metrics query builder, and that people can create through PromQL queries. But our goal is like at least 70 to 80% of the things you should be able to create through metrics query builder, right? And these alerts support complex mathematical calculations like exponentials, logs, square roots, and then you can throw alerts on that. So it's very powerful in terms of what you can create alerts on. We also had requests from like many users on different channels which they want to support on. So currently we have out-of-the-box integrations with Slack and PagerDuty, and we have also enabled webhook as the channel. So enabling webhook effectively enables like lots other use cases. For example, if you want to send alerts via email or like on emails, you can configure webhook and then configure something like Zapier or Integromat to like start sending alerts on your email also. So webhook is sort of the generic format or like generic placeholder through which you can start sending alerts to different channels. And going forward, we'll also enable alerts on email also. And the last point is currently we are primarily creating alerts on metrics, but in future releases, the whole goal is to integrate alerts for all of like the three signals which we'll support. So we currently have metrics and traces, and then we are also shipping logs. So the way I see this going forward is that we'll also enable supports for alerts on like event traces and logs, right? So in the same place, you should be able to create alerts on metrics, traces, and logs, and slice and dice between them, right? And we can support that because we have an underlying single database, and you can create much advanced queries on top of that, right? So that's where we are going with this feature. And because alert is like one of the core components of observability, we want to make it as simple as possible for users to use it, while also providing advanced users to a way to write complex queries as they want, right? Yeah, so I'll now hand over to Amol to take through the next few sets and also maybe share a quick demo.
Thanks, Pranav.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. So yeah, so there are two steps when it comes to like setting up your alerts. The first one would be to set up a notification channel. So as Pranay has covered in earlier slides, we have the notification channels could be your Slack channel. It could be you could be sending it to PagerDuty, or you may want to configure webhook for it, right? So that's what would be the first step that I would recommend for anyone to do when you set up SigNoz. And once you have your channels up, then you can define as many rules as you want. So essentially what this does is every time a rule is triggered, the message will be sent to your notification channel. That's why it's kind of a prerequisite before you set up alerts. So before we move on, let me just walk you through the two sections which are important for discussion today. The first one is this alert section, which covers all your alerting rules, as well as it shows you any triggered alerts around it. And the second section would be the settings section. And here you will find alert channels. So this covers up your notification channel setup. And this is one-time setup, right? So once you set up this, then yeah, the alerts can keep firing and going to these channels, and you don't have to redo this. So, sorry, let me go back to this. Yeah. So yeah, so like we said earlier, we currently support 3 integrations out of box, but you could also do more with webhook. Like you can send an email, like you can set up a custom Lambda function and send an email capturing that webhook. You can also do other things like ops, Genie, and you can send to other systems using webhook. So webhook is pretty powerful in that regard, that it gives you the complete picture of what has happened in the alert, and all the message contains the event information as well. So let's walk through channels first. So let's create a channel here. I'm going to create a channel. So let me name it as, I'm going to create a Slack channel here. As you can see, there are 3 options right now, but I'm going to just focus on Slack. Now, if you see, there is something called webhook URL, right? So this is, now how do we get this webhook URL? And for that, let me add a share. So this one comes from your Slack.
Amol, if you're sharing Slack, it's not visible.
Yeah, I want to share it. I just want to add it. Let me stop sharing and start again. Yeah. Okay. All right. So this is my Slack workspace. And what I want to do is I want my messages to come into this demo channel, right? You can send it to any of your private channels as well, or to yourself also, but here I'm going to set up a channel. And for that, what I would do is in the workspace setup, go to settings and administration, go to manage app. So Slack requires you to create an app before you start sending messages. So once you're here, you can see that I have set up 2 apps already, but you'll have to go to this link called build. and you see this option which says create new app. I'm just going to click this. So here there are two options. One says from scratch. Here you'll have to set up all the information by yourself, and app manifest is I think better because it sets up most of the information and you don't have to do much. So I've just selected the manifest option. And here, if you have multiple workspaces, you will see them, but I'm going to choose my test workspace here and click next. Here you can maybe change the name of app. So whatever name you set here will appear on your message whenever you get a message for the alert. So I'm just gonna say, yeah. So I've created an app. Now the next thing I want to do is select this incoming webhook option. And here you'll have to set this activate button on. Once you set this activate on, you can now add webhooks for this channel. So here you can see list of channels. I'm going to select demo. So technically what's happening is for your particular channel, Slack has provided us with one URL. And this is kind of, this is not something you should share publicly. So this is something you should copy and then set it up in here. Yeah. So this is optional field. If you want, you can set it up or ignore it. And here you can see title and description. So whenever you see a message in your Slack, it comes up with a title and it comes up with a description as well. So I will cover these when we receive a Slack message and get back to this. But for now, we'll go with the default options that are here. The next thing I would want to do is test whether this webhook URL, whatever I passed, works or not. So in which case it may not work is, let's say you have installed SigNoz on your private network and it doesn't have internet access, then you may not be able to even send a message. So as you can see, a sample test alert will be sent. I just click test alert and I should see a test alert in my demo. You can notice that the connection is active. That means we are good to go with our channel. Yeah, so I've created a channel. It's active. Now let's head to the alert section and create a rule and see how that goes. All right, so I set up a sample rule here. So what this does is we have selected SigNoz latency count as a metric. And we have selected a grouping on the service name. And we're also only interested in span kind of service. So what you can see, the graph gets updated as soon as you select these parameters. One of the improvements in this version is we have added this graph and it provides more transparency when you're setting up your alert. So in earlier versions, you could not see, you really had to go to a panel and really create a panel, look at the chart and then come back to alerts. So we have reduced that workflow to a single page where you can set up your metric queries and immediately look at the graph. And looking at this chart, you can, sometimes you may be already aware of what threshold you want to see, but other times you could also look at what your chart looks like and depending on that select a threshold. So once you have your chart ready, it's a good time to look at your alert conditions. So you can see a few conditions here. I will cover them in 1 second. Let me set a threshold of 5 here. Because I've set 5 because I'm looking at most services are below 5 and there's only one service which is above 5. So what happens in this scenario is, if you look at the alert condition, it says send a notification when metric is above the threshold at least once during last 5 minutes. You can see that this chart is for 5 minutes, and you can see that this particular service, the one at the top, is always above 5. So it will result in an alert in this situation. But services which are below 5, you would not receive an alert for this. Now let me change this to maybe 8.9. Yeah, you can see in this case, some of the points are above the threshold for this service and some of them are not. So in this situation, let's say I choose an option which says all the time. The threshold is all the time above this number. So what happens in this scenario is you would not receive an alert because only some of the points are above this threshold, right? So what you're saying is you want to see that the service is hitting that latency all the time above this number. Then only you would want to receive that alert. So in a similar way, on average and in total will work out. So the idea here is to really chart this out, look at the threshold that is correct for you, and then proceed. So here you have options like above, below. You can also do is equal to, not equal to. So let me go with this 9.1. Now, one more thing that's happening is this is the current time frame, right? And we don't know what is in the next time frame. So that's why there may be some lag in how this will work out. So that's why I'm going to set up a little conservative number here. I'll start with 9. And this is again severity, which shows up in your message as well. In the message, you will also see a colored bar, and that depends on this option that you selected. So let's go with critical. All right, so you can select any. And you can also select labels here. So let me select a label. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, so I've set up the labels here, and I'll go ahead and create the rule. So here you can see that that the alert will be created with query builder query. So what this means is there are 2 tabs here, right? You could set up your PromQL or you could set up a query builder. So both these queries are allowed, but whichever query is active when you're going to save the alert will be considered as the primary query that alert will focus on. I'm just gonna save it here. You can see that my rule has been created. Yeah,
Amol, what's the evaluation interval? After you create the role, how much time it waits to evaluate the expression, and then if you can talk about that.
Sure. So whenever you set up an alert query runs every 1 minute. And what it does is every 1 minute, it will look at whether the condition is worth raising an alert on. And if it is, then the alert will be created. So in this case, we probably waited for a few seconds and then the alert got active because the query started running. And you can see that the alert is raised here. Yeah, so let me explain that again. So this condition gets evaluated every 1 minute, and it goes on and on. So every 1 minute, it will look at last 5 minutes of data, evaluate these parameters, and if they cross the threshold, then the alert will be created.
6 participants.
Yeah.
SigNoz. Huh? They are having a webinar of sorts. Are you on mute?
Let me set up this. Yeah, you can see that the alert has come here, and I should receive it in my Slack as well. Yeah. So in the demo channel, you can see that the alert has. So now let's so let me go back and change the alerting threshold. So one more thing to observe here is the messages, the alert messages are sent, all of them are sent to these channels. So that's why I'm seeing other rules as well in this channel, because when you set up a channel, a notification channel, it becomes like a faucet to like send all the messages to that particular endpoint. So there's no filter at the moment for it. It is, you can put a filter on the third party side as well. For example, in case of PagerDuty, you can filter what you want to do with those messages. And that's the reason that we are sending all the messages. Okay. So the status of this alert has changed to okay because I had raised the threshold level. And in a few minutes, I should receive the resolved message as well. So whenever alert is resolved, it waits for a few minutes before sending a resolved status, because alert may be intermittently have stopped and it may restart. So that's the reason that resolution happens in a few minutes. I think the wait interval is up to 5 minutes. So while we wait for it, let me, yeah. So you can see that I got a resolved message as well. So this kind of completes the whole cycle of like setting up a rule, getting to an alert, and then getting a resolution on alert. And so let me also walk you through one more thing, which is quite useful when setting up webhook. So if you're going to set up webhook, then there's a, so initially, if you just want to look at the messages or test it out, then there's a website called webhook.site, which can give you a ready-to-use webhook. So you could always copy this and yeah. So what this site does is it gives you a ready-to-use webhook, and all the messages will show up here once the alert condition is hit. So it's a good place to start if you're going to set up your webhook. Yeah, you can see the test message that has arrived. And you can use this to build any kind of custom lambdas, your own solutions around the alerting, and use it this way. All right. That's what I had, Pranay. Is there anything I missed out?
No, sounds good. Do you want to also show the filtering capabilities on triggering alerts? I think we have some color alerts you can filter based on labels.
Yeah.
And also, like, you can create multiple queries and then create formulas. But I think this we covered in metrics builder demo also.
Yeah. That's why I didn't go through metrics so much, builder so much. What was it about the labels?
Oh, no, if you go to triggered alerts tab, you can basically filter based on tags here.
Yeah. Okay.
So maybe this is something might be useful for example, if somebody has lots of alerts coming in, they can filter based on these tags, or they can group by different tags, these alerts, right?
That's true.
So, yeah, I think that's all. We have a couple of questions. I think Ashu had a question on, can we configure multiple channels to receive alerts?
Yeah, that got answered.
Okay.
Almost right. So it's like if we configure one notification channel, all the alerts will go to all the channels. We can't control that, like, or is there more granularity to that?
Yeah, so as of now, we don't have. As of now, in all alerts generated will go to all the channels, and we are expecting that people can filter at the channel level itself. But going forward, like we are working on issues where you can set channel for a particular rule itself. So as you
for a particular label.
No, not for a label, for a particular alert rule. So if you have you created a particular alert rule, right? And there you can specify which channel you want the alerts from this rule to be sent to.
Yeah.
So that's like first level of filter which you're working on. Cool. I think Amol used something around, like, while creating the alert rules, he used something called span kind server while filtering. Amol, do you want to quickly explain? Maybe people who are seeing that have that question. Now, when you're creating alert rules, right, you had a filter where you said that filter wise. Yeah, this one. So what does span kind server mean?
Yeah, so this is the label filter. You could also use label filters to really identify what kind of like events you're interested in or alerts you're interested in. So span kind server will be mostly you will be receiving data related to your servers only. That's what this does. It's kind of a filter on your data.
Okay. Cool. I think, does anybody else have any question? Anurag, Kaushik?
I have
Kaushik, you can speak. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, sorry. I'll just start my video. Hey.
Hey man, how are you?
Good. Is it possible to kind of see a sample payload for alerts? In Grafana, what they do is, I think they send like a monitor ID. So let's suppose that there is a particular threshold that has been crossed, and they send it to Spike. We kind of identify that, okay, this is the same alarm, or this is the same alert that's been repeating for for a particular set of conditions. So that way we know how do we suppress these particular alerts or anything like that. Is there a particular identifier in the payload for alerts?
Amol?
So I think you're talking about having a unique identifier for each alert that is raised. Is that, if I'm understanding it correctly?
Yes. Let's suppose that if a CPU utilization crossed like 70%, and you send in a fingerprint, ISO fingerprint. So if you send in like 1, 2, 3, and then the CPU is normalized, but then it crosses 70% again, are you going to change the fingerprint?
No, the fingerprint will remain same. So as long as these labels are same, let's say I'm still grouping by service name, and we're looking at the same data, then the fingerprint will remain same.
Okay.
Amol, we can also use tag for this purpose, right? Or will that not work?
I think so. What happens is, if let's say there is a new information on the alert, in that case the fingerprint will change, and that's when you will see that okay, something had changed in the alert. So I think he's referring to that use case where until like something changes, he would want to find out whether this is a new alert or it's an existing one.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, it's essentially we basically want to. I'm from Spike.sh, so we are an incident management platform, and we were thinking essentially to build an integration with SigNoz, which means that when an incident occurs, we would want to understand if this is like a repeated incident. Is this something that we can suppress the alerts and basically add any particular layer of intelligence to understand whom should I alert and given the time of the day and yada yada, things like that, right? Which is where each of the integrations that we've built among the last 80 of integrations, all of them more or less send like a unique alert ID or a unique ID to identify that this was the alert rule set which got breached, for which you are seeing an alert. And this can happen 10,000 times in the future, but the ID will remain the same. So for example, for one of our customers, we have suppressed the same incident about 28,000 times within 1 hour. And that kind of happens from time to time across volatile conditions of whatever they might be monitoring. Right? So that was the question, actually. And that is the intent too.
Got it.
Yeah. Thanks, Amol.
Yeah, Kaushik, if you have any specific question, maybe you want to, like, we have Slack community, you may ask question there. Like, if you try building the integration and if you have any specific questions.
Yeah, we would basically, I think for the integration and for us to kind of get listed on SigNoz, what is the particular process? That's part number 1. And part 2 is that if we get a sample payload for alerts, we'll basically take up all the responsibility of building that particular integration, and you needn't even bother about
it. Got it. Cool. So just join the Slack and maybe ping Amol also hangs out there and he knows all about alerts and SigNoz. So maybe he will be able to help you out.
Sure.
Cool, man. Anurag, you had a question?
Yeah, I was just asking with regard to the previous webinar that we have configured metrics builder. Means the time when we are configuring the metrics builder, can't we set the alert on the same page? Means is it necessary to come to the alert space?
Yeah, so that's a good feature request. As of now, we don't have that feature. That currently the only way to set alerts is through this page, but that's a good feature request. I think a couple of our users have already asked that feature that, hey, like, we are already creating that plot there, like the graph is already being plotted there. Can we enable setting thresholds there, right? So yeah, that's a good feature request. And if you want to open a issue for us, that would be great. Like if you want to specify, I understand mostly the issue is that, hey, if I am creating the graph here, it's much easier to set alerts there. But like not everybody may want to create alerts, and that space may be redundant, but there may be ways in product to figure that out on how we can enable that. So yeah, if you can specify, like create an issue and just tag me and Amol, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. I will do it for now.
Cool, guys. I think we are almost on time. Thanks, Amol, for sharing the demo, and thanks everybody for joining in. I will share the recording of this call in YouTube also. And I've also shared our Slack channel. So if you guys have any specific questions or want to ask anything around this, we are on signoz.io/Slack, and then we have a pretty active community there. Cool. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Bye-bye.